In the last couple of years, I published over 500 times on LinkedIn. This helped me grow to 50,000 plus followers and book thousands of qualified meetings for my company, which ultimately converted to 6 million in annual revenue. I also trained my team to reproduce these results, which added up to them gaining a combined 180k followers. This includes my business partner, Alex, at 46k followers, but also my head of demand generation, Ivan, at 17k, my head of strategy, Sohail, at 11k, and the rest of the team that post 100 plus times per month on the platform combined. In this video, I'm going to share my biggest learnings from these last couple of years, and I'll try to make it as quick as possible so that you can act on these ASAP and get similar results. First, you want to study what great posts look like. So I see a ton of people that post for months on LinkedIn without ever improving their results. In most cases, they don't have a standard to strive for. Here's what I recommend doing before you write a single line of text. A, you want to grab a tool like Taplio or Scribe. Both these platforms have a built-in feed that lets you find high-performing posts by topics or by keyword. Let me show you quickly how that looks like. Here, as you can see, I'm inside of Taplio, and what I can do is I can just pick some topics. So here, for example, I noted down sales, prospecting, outbound. Now it's giving me a feed of posts that went viral. And if I want to filter a bit more, what I can do is I can go on advanced filters. So I can decide that I want to see only posts that have had, for example, 300 likes. And I can say that I want these posts to have been published within the last month. I have some fresh viral IDs. And now when I click on apply, I'm only shown posts that talk about sales, prospecting that have had at least 300 likes in the last month. And you can actually see that I have 2 viral posts in the last 13 days because we have 800, one at 1.2k likes. And here you can see other posts that have had at least 300 likes talking about these topics. Now you can actually do the same thing inside of Scribe, but the difference though is that they allow you to search by person. To give you an example, here you can click on search people. And what I can do is I can pick a profile. So in that case, let me pick my profile. And as I pick my profile, I'm able to see the number of followers that I currently have. Here we are currently at 50,411 followers. And I can see all of the latest posts I have done, like in a pretty accessible way. Here you can see the post I did 2 days ago, 3 days ago, 4 days ago, 5 days ago, and all of the rest. So I find it interesting to go for specific creators instead of just topics, because sometimes when you go for topics, it can be a bit wide, as in it just finds all sort of posts around the topic you are looking for. But when it's creators, you can actually, guarantee a certain baseline for quality because you can input people that you know better. Now, the idea is that you want to study what these proven posts do that you can replicate. So you want to ask yourself questions such as, what does the hook look like? What format are they using? Is it carousels, infographics? Is it selfies? Is it text-only posts? You want to look at how long are the posts? Are they super short, super long? What's the writing style? What's the tone of this post? How does the hook look like? The goal is to compile enough publications in your niche that went viral or simply performed well, knowing that this is the baseline you need to strive for and that you ultimately need to beat. Now that you have a clear idea for where to get inspiration from, the next thing you want to do is you want to invest in scroll-stopping visuals. Once you study enough LinkedIn publications, you'll start seeing some patterns. And if you see the same thing as I do, you'll notice that posts that have great visuals get over 10 times the engagement of the posts too. The most common advice you hear is to spend as much time as possible on the hook. But I say spend more time on the visuals. And you can actually make the test. Open your LinkedIn feed right now and scroll down. And what you'll see is that the hook is 2 lines and occupy very little real estate on the feed, while a great visual takes up all the space on the mobile phone. And if it's good enough, it can be a post on its own that performs very well without much text. So here, my recommendations are to 1, invest in a great designer, and 2, to create a swipe file or follow the visuals you've seen, liked, and want to use later on for inspiration. Then the cool thing about this is that even though it takes more effort, you can later on reuse visuals, which brings me to my next point, which is that you want to repurpose your biggest hits. One thing that you need to keep in mind is that most people are seeing you for the first time. 5 to 6 of my best performing content pieces are infographics breaking down my company's tech stack. It's not really the same, but it reaches 100,000 plus impressions every single time. Here I'm looking at some of my best performing posts, and what you'll notice is that some posts actually have the exact same idea, but they've been published months later with a different sort of shape or form, but it's essentially the same idea. So here, for example, this tool that has 194k impressions is talking about every tool I use to run my agency. This other post that has 148k impressions is talking once again about every software I use to run my agency. And then we've got this other post that's talking about every tool we use to run our agency. That's 106k. Then we even have this other post that looks to have 60k impressions, but actually has 220,000 impressions. And the reason why it's showcasing 50k impressions is that because despite being published more than a year ago, it has generated 50k impressions in the year 2025. And so the truth is that most people will have forgotten your initial post, but also your new followers never saw it. So I urge you to test it for yourself. Take your best performing post ever, publish it again, and it's likely it will perform just as well as the first first time. That being said, what I recommend doing would be to actually rewrite the post to make them better. For example, I had this first post where I broke down my tech stack based on every activity or channel. If you read this first post, you notice that I'm saying LinkedIn is our number one place for inbound leads, and then I share what tools I use for LinkedIn. And then I say we are ramping up YouTube content, and then I share other tools related to YouTube. And finally, I say we publish 2 weekly articles, and then I share another batch of tools related to SEO. But as I rewrote the post, I figured, what if I share more precise numbers for why you should actually care which tools I use? In my rewritten version, instead of just saying that LinkedIn is my number one place for inbound lead, I say we generate 100 plus leads per month via LinkedIn, and I include my follower count, which was 40k at the time, and the one of my team. Instead of saying we are ramping up YouTube content, I say I just crossed 1,000 YouTube subscribers, and instead of saying we publish 2 weekly articles, I say we drive 35,000 plus visitors to our site every month. You get the idea, right? I take this proven post that has gotten 150k impressions, and I keep it structured, but I improve it slightly, which results the next time to generating close to 200k impressions. As you understand by now, repurposing your own successful post is a proven way to generate eyeballs, but also it's a great way to remain consistent. So there is this creator, Daniel Iles, who explains it very well. Picture this: on month 1, you write 20 publications, and let's say 3 to 4 of them perform great. On month 2, you make another batch of 20 publications, another 4 to 5 perform well. On month 3, you can make another 20 publications, but now you can reuse the 4 that worked on month 1, so that they keep performing well, but you also have another 4 publications, let's say, out of the remaining 16 new ones that work great. On month 4 is the same idea. You make another 20, but you can reuse 4 to 5 from month 2. And now by month 5, it gets interesting. You can actually reuse 4 publications that perform great on month 1, another 4 that perform great on month 3. So you actually really need to think of 12 new posts to remain at 20 posts per month, knowing that you have a good chunk of proven content pieces already. The takeaway here is that the longer you do this, the easier it is to remain consistent. There's nothing more important than remaining consistent at all costs. I know this sounds very cliche, but there's a high likelihood that LinkedIn won't work for you on your first publishing attempt. And the truth is that you can't know what a great post looks like after just a few handful of publications. But publish 100 times, and I assure you by that time you'll know. That said, audience building is a long-term game, and you probably won't make a sale from the platform in the first few weeks, perhaps even months. And the reason why it works great for the ones who remain consistent is that most people give up before seeing results. The key here is that you want to take pride in your consistency. You want to view it as a trust-building mechanism before viewing it as a lead generation channel, because having a presence on LinkedIn will benefit all your other marketing efforts. Imagine sending a cold message to someone who doesn't know you, where you let them know that you can help them solve an issue in their business. What's the first thing that you think they'll do? They'll most probably check you out, LinkedIn being one of these places where they do that. Imagine them seeing that you publish 50 plus times insights and advice around the topics you are supposed to help them with. The takeaway here is that even when it doesn't generate leads at first, it's still a very efficient mechanism to help you convert existing leads. But obviously, that's not the reason why you're posting, right? There's a story I like to tell about when I first got to make LinkedIn click for me. I had tried 3 times to remain consistent at LinkedIn posting. The first time, I gave up after 3 or 4 publications because I found it too cringe. I was working as a marketer in a company, and I thought people would be like, why the is this guy giving advice online? Who is he? So the second time, I realized that it was dumb to not go for the opportunity just because of what most people would think. I started posting again, 8 times or so, and then I lost inspiration and I found excuses for when I'd post again. It actually took months. Finally, on the 3rd attempt, I focused on staying consistent. I knew that if I were going to fail, it would most certainly be because I'd failed to remain consistent. And I had gone full-time on my business a month prior, and so I committed to publishing 5 times per week for 3 months straight, whatever happens. I published 30 times without generating a single lead from the platform. And on the 31st day of posting, I was this close to give up. It was a national holiday, I had a massive headache, and it was already 10 p.m. I was trying to convince myself that it didn't count as a normal working day, and I had been publishing so many times already, it didn't matter, it was just simply not working. But somehow, I managed to gather the little bit of courage I had. I sat on my desk and I found 4 resources around AI in sales that I could share, and I hit the publish button and I went to bed. When I woke up the next morning, the post had gone completely viral. 600 plus likes, 140,000 plus impressions, 25 meetings in my agenda, and 4 new clients signed. I went from 2 clients to 6 clients because of 1 post, and the craziest thing is that I was trying to find excuses not to publish this post. It often makes me think of the image of the guy digging for diamonds who comes back on each step as he's about to uncover them. As you can guess, I never thought of giving up since that day. Now, not giving up is also a matter of systems, and the more efficient you get at crafting posts, the easier it will be to remain consistent. And one of the key to doing that is to plan your publication ahead of time and find recurring formats that you can publish week after week. Here, it's a sort of double advice, but these two things are intertwined. And to give you an example, let me show you my own content calendar. As you can see here, at the time of this video, so July 27th, I've got 2 weeks of IDs. You can also see that there are different emojis in front of these IDs. And the whole idea here is that I thought of some recurring formats that I could publish week after week because it just makes it much easier to remain consistent. To give you an example, one post type that has worked great for me is to share an internal milestone in the company and break down in a visually appealing way how we reach this milestone. That could be, for example, a number of meetings we booked in a single month and a description of how we did it. Or it could be how much revenue we closed and once again, a breakdown of our sales process. Or it could be an increase in our conversion rate, once again, with a breakdown. It can even simply be using your company revenue and describing the funnel like I did here. Obviously, it's more efficient if you have some interesting milestones to share, but that's not necessary because the idea here is you have a post format and you stick to it and you repeat it week after week. Another format I have is to share a category of tools in the go-to-market space that I find helpful. For example, I did in the AI agent category, for LinkedIn tools that allowed me to grow followers, or like data scraping tools that we use as part of our agency, and also all-in-one prospecting tools that you can use for your prospecting. You get the gist. The big idea is to find some recurring topics you can write about week after week. You want to plan a few ideas in advance, and it will save you a lot of time in content production. And the cool thing about that is that you can actually leverage this time you save by going as in-depth as possible when you write your post. And this is important because you shouldn't be afraid of breaking LinkedIn's character limits. Often, you'll notice that you get fewer likes than you'd get otherwise if you were posting funny memes or selfies of yourself, but it will be much easier to sign clients. And in the end, my best posts, both for reach and conversion, hit the character limits. And you'll notice that if you scroll down some of my content, that I write more words than the average creator. But this also allows me to monetize my contents much better than many larger creators on the platform, because often there are people with 60, 70, 100,000 followers on LinkedIn who generate less than 10k per month. But if you play your cards right, it should be the opposite. You should be able to generate 100,000 plus per month with just 10k followers. So some people do this very well. Adam Robinson and Galaga come to mind as examples. I'd recommend that you check their posts, look at how they write. That's the level of depth you should strive towards. And I can guarantee that this in-depth content will help you sign more of your ideal type of clients than any other type of client. But one caveat to that is that to reach your ideal client, you need to rely on the algorithm gods to somehow put your publications in front of them. But thankfully, the algorithm isn't the only solution for that. Because on LinkedIn, you can simply connect with your ideal buyer. And it's as simple as sending connection requests to every person that matches your ICP. On LinkedIn, you're able to see company size, job title, industry, geography, and more for every single person you interact with. And what happens when you connect with these people, and even better, you send them a DM, is that there is a much higher likelihood that your post get exposed to them. Imagine the impact of hundreds of your ideal clients regularly reading how you can solve their pain points. You would assume at some point it would convert into some clients, right? But one thing to note about writing on LinkedIn, it's not limited to posts. And another very successful strategy is to actually leverage comments to engage with people in your niche. I want you to consider this. In the beginning, very few people will see your posts. But there is certainly an existing creator talking about the same topic as you that already has a large following. And if you write an insightful comment under their post, there is a high chance that it's going to be seen by a lot of people, often more than the number of people who saw your post. It's actually such a powerful mechanism in LinkedIn that I recently added the number of impressions below comments. Some time ago, I read an experiment where a couple of guys tried to grow their following count through 3 distinct strategies. The first one was through posting only, the second one was through commenting only, and the third one was by posting plus commenting. As you can guess, the third strategy, combining both posting and commenting, was the most efficient one. But what was surprising is that they were getting more profile views and more followers by allocating their time to just commenting than to just posting. One issue with just commenting is that the LinkedIn feed is often filled with random garbage. One solution I found for that is to create engagement leads. It's actually fairly easy to do, and the concept simply revolves around finding creators in your niche that write some valuable content and adding them to a custom feed like so. Here, like when you press enter in the search bar, you're gonna be able to click post, and as you click post, you can select the date and when they are posted. You can say I want to see the latest post, and you can pick from who you want to see post. So for example, you could say I want to see post from Michel Liben, then you could see post from Alex Vaca, then you could see post from Ivan Palko, Sohil, and Monica, and when you click on show results, you'll get a feed with just the people you selected. So this actually makes it much easier for engagement because you can copy paste this URL, open your feed, and you can just decide to comment on this post, which are the posts that you want to see, and you don't have to go through the LinkedIn feed and sort through lots of irrelevant posts for you. That said, even more important than engaging on other posts is to engage under yours. Because one thing that the algorithm likes to see is you replying to every comment under your post. So you want to do that at least for the first 30 minutes, because otherwise, if you get an extremely viral post, it can get extremely time consuming. But based on the initial engagement on your post, the algorithm will decide whether to showcase it to more people or not. And so responding to people who comment on your post, and even better advice to comment under theirs, will guarantee that they keep on coming back. This can mean the difference between LinkedIn pushing your post to 1,000 people or to 10,000 people. Now this is a lot of advice to follow already. And one thing I'd advise you to do to make it all easier is to leverage technology. And as an example, I've used more than 10 different tools to grow to 50,000 plus followers, which I still use today. Some examples include Tapio and Scribe, which have helped me find viral post ideas based on my topics or based on my favorite creators, as we saw a bit earlier in the video. Grammarly, which corrects my spelling in real time. And as you can hear, I'm not a native English speaker. I make a lot of grammatical mistakes when writing, which makes it very helpful. Opus Clip, which is an AI video clipping tool that I'm using to automatically create short form videos out of my long form ones. Some of these have reached 40,000 plus impressions on the platform and actually took me 2 minutes to do. There's also EasyGIF, which is a free website that turns video into GIFs, which is helpful because in my experience, you get more impressions by posting a 10-second GIF than a 10-second video. If you're ever planning to post a quick audio-less video, I'd recommend that you speed it up and publish it as a GIF instead. And there's also Claude and OpenAI that I use to help me analyze what or saw or how some of my posts went viral, but also help me repurpose existing posts and generate ideas. And then there's Canva, Figma, or Photoshop, which are designers' tools. For Canva, I use it in the early days to do my first ever carousels, which is a format that works well on LinkedIn, by the way. And now my designers, they use Figma and Adobe Suite to create more professional looking carousel. And finally, there's Notion that I use as my central content hub. It's where I write my ideas, draft my posts, and I use it as my content calendar. So here you have it. All my best tools and strategy that got me to 50,000 plus followers, which also are the strategies I plan on using on my road to 100k followers. That said, there's one last thing that you need to do when you manage to make LinkedIn work for you. And that is to expand the playbook to as many people as possible in your team. Because there is nothing better to build trust at scale than 5 or more of your employees demonstrating their expertise as well. And with LinkedIn, you can only post once or twice per day without hurting your reach. And one time is actually optimal from my findings, to be completely honest. If you want to scale a strategy, you need other people to post. It's not as simple as creating new accounts because LinkedIn makes sure it has verified profile on its platform. You can do so nonetheless, but whenever LinkedIn finds out, these accounts will get banned and all your hard work will be wasted. So instead, I'd recommend organizing an internal competition. For example, we had one person who had the most posts above 20 likes during the quarter would win. The gold medalist would get 2.5k, and to make sure many people would be willing to participate, the second and third would get 1.5 and 1k, while every person that had posted more than 20 times would get 500 euros. Well, I hope you learned a thing or two watching this video, and if you liked it, I'm pretty much convinced you'll love seeing me build an entire LinkedIn strategy from scratch for a friend of mine. See you in the next one.